Israel Adesanya's personality type. Um, Spoiler alert, I think he's an ESFP. I'll get into why in the presentation slash video slash YouTube video, I guess. Um, yeah, I mean, so what you're looking at on this slide, with the exception of the thumbnail that might be showing my face talking, is essentially what I think this guy's cognitive functions and cognitive function oscillations are. His lead function is SE in the top left, auxiliary function is TE in the top right, tertiary function is FI in the bottom left, and then NI is kind of covered up right now by, as I'm recording with a picture of me. I'll see if I can get that out of there. Hopefully this will not be relevant. But yeah, I guess we'll get into why I think he's this type, starting with his oscillations and focusing on the oscillations too, because I can't really see the functions in this isolation as well as I can see them working together. So yeah, and as you can see, like EST somewhat obviously is a combination of the two extroverted sensing and thinking functions. NTJ is a combination of extroverted thinking and introverted intuition. INF is a combination of introverted feeling and introverted intuition, and SFP is a combination of extroverted sensing and introverted feeling. These are just kind of concepts that have been floating around either in OPS or cognitive type that I've kind of renamed to just be a bit more maybe intuitively obvious, I guess. So yeah, we'll get into what each of these means starting right now. So EST, what do I mean by EST? By EST I mean extroverted sensing and extroverted thinking working together. So what is that though? That's more of, you can look at that, you can break that down into two things essentially. That's PE and JE working together. That's extroverted perceiving and extroverted judging working together. That's also sensing and thinking working together. And so let's look at what I mean by ST first. ST essentially is athletic activity. I don't want to say practical, because you can be practical in a variety of ways, but I think athletics is a good way to encapsulate ST briefly or succinctly without getting the whole picture. So like ST sports are ST activities, and what I mean by that is not that you can't play a sport if you don't have ST high. I just mean that the best athletes are likely people with high ST, based on just the concept of just, hey, if you're gonna value something enough, so it's not like these people are just born good athletes. Israel Adesanya talks about like himself being kind of awkward in high school, before he got into martial arts. Well, all I'm saying is just that if you're gonna value something, if we're going to use like socionics terms, value something and also be good at it, have enough natural talent to actually develop that drive you have into something that you can make a living off of it at a very high level. I think that's what like high ST looks like, or in this person's case, like dominant ST. Because if you noticed, I didn't say he was an ESFP with like FI second, I said he was an ESFP with TE second. So that's kind of like an OPS nod, I suppose. Objective personality system is what that means, if you're not familiar with them. So ST, we have sports. Like, okay, he's an athlete. That's the main thing. He's an athlete. But why is it extroverted athletics as opposed to introverted athletics, or perceiving athletics, or judging athletics? Why is it EST and not STP, STJ, or IST? And my argument for that is that, well, martial arts in particular is a fairly extroverted sport. You're not. First off, let's talk about the target. The target with martial arts is your opponent, and the point isn't to move yourself across a goal line or flip through the air impressively like with track or gymnastics. The point is to knock out, in this case, Yoel Romero. He didn't end up knocking him out. It was a decision fight, but he won by decision, so he didn't knock him out. So he failed, unfortunately. No, it was I don't know, I didn't watch the fight. Anyway, but with TE, or JE, let's just say, because I'm just looking at these two oscillations in part. I'm saying, okay, The ST, athletics, sure. And we'll get into what SF, NF, and NT look like later. But the athletics is ST, based on just kind of that sensory awareness combined with logical analysis and activity or decision making. Because when you're fighting, it's not like, well, I think it would be really interesting and cool if I punched him like this, or if I did a backflip and then you're gonna get. That's not how you fight. You have to be. You're not using emotional. It's not an emotional decision making process. There may be parts of it when you try and but if you focus all the way on just like trying to look cool or trying to do something nice or trying to do something that isn't necessarily recommended based on a impartial, impersonal analysis of the situation, you're not going to fare as well. So that's why, briefly, I would say that sports, athletics, physical activity, stuff like that is ST activity. And this extends to like warfare, which is kind of martial. It's definitely martial, but it's not like a sport. But you're still working with tools in that case. But it's still like in a very practical, physical, logical manner. So that's ST, and now we can move on to the E. So the E is essentially, like I said, the target is outside of yourself. You're not moving your body. Like gymnastics and track might be potentially, from my perspective, more TI sports, whereas martial arts, rock climbing would also be more TI sport. You're just moving yourself up a rock face. You're not really moving the rock face because you couldn't. But in this case, with martial arts, you're affecting something outside of yourself, which is JE, extroverted judgment, as far as I can tell. And you're not affecting it according to the dictates of your own physical state or the dictates of your own body or your own mind. You're doing it based on, like, I see an opening in this guy's guard, or he's been kind of moving like this, and he's been punching at this rate with this pattern. I'm going to catch him now. You're watching something outside of yourself, and you're affecting that same thing outside of yourself. That's extroversion as far as I can tell. And so when we look at like high-level athletes in sports like martial arts or basketball or football, and by football I actually mean like soccer or American football as far as I can tell, we're looking at like people with high EST. And you can look at sports with like track as more maybe TI, because you're not really, not all track and field sports though. So like, shot put would be more TE, javelin would be more TE, because you're actually getting some result outside of yourself. With shot put, I'm not sure if that would be more STJ or I don't know if that would be more STJ or EST. Maybe EST if you're actually aiming, but I think it's more of just like, I gotta throw this thing as far as I can away from me, which is kind of the focus almost. So maybe that's more STJ with SI and TE, or introverted sensing and extroverted thinking. So that's Israel Adesanya's EST oscillation. Why is this dominant? Because this is why he's a millionaire. This is why he's very well known. It's why he's very popular and successful at what he does. This isn't like something that's just like, oh, I go to a martial arts class every week, once a week, twice a week, and I just kind of go through the drills. I'm trying to get in shape. No, this is this guy's life. This is what he does. It's not something that's secondary or tertiary, or what's the one for quaternary? Let's go with quaternary. Yeah, it's much more major than that. It's much more impressive. There's nothing in this guy's life that he's more impressive and dedicated to than, maybe his family and stuff like that, but like some actual structured creative activity, which is what I think a cognitive function oscillation is, a structured creative activity. There's no other structured creative activity that this guy is more focused on or into, I don't think. That's why I say he's EST first, and then from there you would say, well, he's either an ENTJ or an ESFP, based on how I define EST, which is TE and SE, because the two types that have TE and SE high in my understanding of typology are the ENTJ and the ESFP. So now let's go into why I think he's an ESFP as opposed to an ENTJ. His face is blocked. No. But you can see that he's crumping or breakdancing or something here. So this guy's actually a fairly accomplished dancer. He's competed in like dance competitions across New Zealand, before he was in the UFC doing MMA stuff. But that's SFP, and why is that SFP? I mean, and it's not just because like, oh, it's kind of wild and crazy. He's dancing all over the place. That's P, and then SF. It's kind of well, I mean, the SF is kind of on point, honestly. But the reason it's SFP, if we break down SFP into S and F, and then PE and JI, or extra to perceiving and introvert to judging, what is dancing? It's hey, this is a cool looking move. Here's another cool looking move. This is a step that everybody likes. This is it's sensations that feel good or that look good or that look cool or that are impressive or nice or aesthetically pleasing. That's F, aesthetics, I think. So that's why dance is SF, but why is this SFP? Because his body is the instrument. That's the FI. He's moving. That's what I mean by JI too. It's like monkey see, monkey do. It's like stimulus response, it's input output. What are you doing? His body is doing the work. He's not playing a harp or playing a piano, which would maybe be more FE. He's just moving his body in accordance to the music, SE, outside of himself. Music comes in, hits him, and then he's moving himself with respect to JI, with respect to the external music, PE. And then you can actually just see you can see the parallel here with fighting and with dancing, because with fighting it's like, okay, I see this guy in front of me, he's doing these things, I'm going to affect him now. Versus with dance, like I see these tunes, these songs, these lyrics, these beats coming into myself, and I'm going to move myself in accordance with those musical notes or songs. And if you're dancing, maybe, I mean, you're always dancing to like, usually people are dancing to like external music, so maybe dancing in general is more SFP. But even if it's internal music, even if you're imagining the song, that's still not, hey, how does my body feel, and how am I going to move my body with respect to how I feel physically, which I think is more SI. I think this is more SFP, because he's listening. I mean, he might not have been listening. There might not have been a song playing here, but with conventional dancing, it's like, what's the song, and then what's my reaction to the song? SE, FI. Is this gonna play? There we go. Oh, maybe it lagged. Let's get that again. Bang, 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 bang. Gun twirl in the holsters. Yeah, so, I mean, this is a short example of what I'm actually talking about, but it's all these act outs that he does. I think this is INF. He comes up with this idea in his head of saying, here's this abstract, imaginary, not necessarily abstract, this is kind of a physical action. And all of his kind of act outs that he does, whether he's writing the Death Note, his opponent's name in the Death Note from the Death Note manga anime media franchise, and his pre-fight routine, or he's doing what did he do? I think he did another jutsu from Naruto or something, or peeing in the cage, or whatever else. These act outs that he does, he comes up with the idea inside of his own head. It's an imaginary idea or just mental stimulus, and then he acts it out with his own body. He's not coordinating something outside of himself. He's part of the performance. Even when he did that like Coming to America bit before which fight was that? I think that was before the one he lost. I forget the guy's name. Not a huge MMA guy if you can't tell, but I'm familiar with this dude. But yeah, before we did the Coming to America bit, before he lost, I think it was the light heavyweight fight? Yeah, I think it was light heavyweight. When he lost that fight, and he came up to the Coming to America, he was still part of the spectacle. He was still at the center of it. He was still acting as if he was Eddie Murphy in Coming to America, with people throwing flowers as he walked or whatever. But all jokes aside, the act outs are INF as far as I can tell, because it's an internal abstract idea. It's not improv, right? He's not doing improv comedy where he's, hey, this guy's giving me a signal for this type of character, or I just saw this gift that this other improviser gave me in this choice of scene, so I'm going to interact with this object and do some object work in this way. He's not doing that. What he's doing is he's coming up with all this stuff internally. It's a lot like stand-up comedy, except minus the crowd work. He just knocked out Robert Whittaker, and then he's like, oh, that was awesome. Let's think of something cool to do, not obviously literally, but like it's what his maybe mind or brain is doing, just knocks it up, knocked him out, and then comes up with this little, not a sketch, a routine, like a mini play almost that he does, that he writes himself and performs himself. INF. Yeah, this is a clip of what his YouTube channel thumbnail looks like. So he just came out with this YouTube channel, and it's just kind of him doing fight breakdowns. And also, I forgot to talk about in the last slide that this guy isn't like an INF primary or secondary, because that's not like anything that he has any training in. The reason I think he's ESFP as opposed to NTJ is because he doesn't really have any training. I mean, ENTJ is a very close second, just because I don't see him doing, he's not really pushing the whole dance stuff. He's more pushing the YouTube channel as far as I can tell. So that seems more potentially NTJ. The music, I mean, I'd say it is NTJ at this point, the YouTube channel, because he's not really making something, and he's doing fight breakdowns. He's not doing like a entertainment YouTube channel. He's just giving information about like, hey, this is this fight that I had. Here's what I did here. This is what I was thinking at this point. When he came up here and, you know, threw this punch, I was like, oh, I see this, what I can do with that. He's just kind of explaining it. Mental. It's not even like he's not coming up with this stuff on the fly either. He's using maybe the video that he's watching of his own site to remind himself, but it's all still in here. He's not reacting to the video in real time. He's not watching a fight, his own fight, and going like, oh, that's what I was doing. No, he already knows. He's just going like, this is what I was thinking, this is what I was anticipating, this is how I was processing the situation, here's how I acted. The TE part, from that's the NI part. The TE part is kind of constructing the YouTube channel, constructing the information of the videos. It's kind of like a blast thing with OPS, or objective personality. It's a pretty good way to put it, except it's not really just like him talking, and that's why it's blast. It's because he's actually producing something in the outer world. He's actually forming something that can be interpreted or used by others. That's the TE side. What's being consumed or interpreted by others, it's his own perspective, it's his own information, it's his own intuitive, abstract understanding of what he did and why he fought the fight that he fought, the way that he, the way he approached the fight that he fought, let's say. And also, I mean, I guess kind of like less rigorously. This is kind of like some abstract stuff in the picture there. His eyes are glowing. That's kind of intuitive. You know, don't take that and run with it, but I don't know. That's just kind of an aside, I guess. So yeah, there we have it. Israel Adesanya. I don't know if I'm saying this. On the Flagrant 2 podcast with Andrew Schultz, it's like, I think Andrew Schultz does a better job of saying his name than I do. But yeah, I don't know if it's Adesanya, because it's A, but it's Anya. Anya like white on rice. There's one for the books. So yeah, this is Israel Adesanya's personality type. This is my first video of this type. I don't know if I'll be doing more of these or not, but I mean, I guess maybe depending on the response, I suppose. But it's kind of went long, but I think it's more entertaining to look at, perhaps, with pictures and GIFs or GIFs, depending on your preference. Yeah. So, like I said, this is just my own interpretation of personality typology. You know, if you have some questions or disagree or agree, or you're ambivalent, I guess if you're ambivalent, you probably won't say or do anything, because that's what ambivalence means. But if you agree or disagree, let me know. Start up a little conversation in the comments. You can see I've responded to like any comment I've gotten on this channel thus far. So, yeah. Let me know what you think. Hope this was interesting, helpful, educational. Even if you have questions about your own personality type, I'm very open to like talking to people about this stuff over Skype or Zoom or something like that. So just let me know if any of that sounds interesting to any of you at all. Alright, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. See you next time.